The Vikings made several inventions that enabled them to become as successful as they were. Some of these inventions they were the very first to do, while others were invented separately in other places, without them knowing about each other. In this video, we'll delve into the incredible technologies and creations that allowed them to reign supreme on land and sea. From navigation tools and shipbuilding to the textile loom and weapons, here are some of the most important Viking inventions. This is Viking history with Madness. But before we begin, please smash the like and subscribe buttons. It really helps out the channel a lot. And blah, blah. Let's start with the most iconic Viking invention, the Longship and the keel. A marvel of engineering, the Viking longship was unparalleled in the medieval world. The Vikings enjoyed advantages in war, trade, and exploration, thanks to their ships' flexible, durable designs and their ability to sail in many different directions according to the wind. During the 8th century, a Viking invention revolutionized shipbuilding and maritime voyaging when they invented the keel. The keel gave stability to Viking ships so that they became seaworthy. It also became a base to secure the mast. Instead of relying on oarsmen to power the ship, a huge sail was added as an important propulsion method. With the keel, Vikings were no longer limited to short forays along the shore. They were able to carry food, timber, and animals as cargo across distances of thousands of kilometers in the Atlantic Ocean. The ship's shallow drafts also enabled them to operate in shallow water. So they could travel upriver and surprise people in places where no one expected an ocean-going ship to appear. Unlike other ships of the time, Viking vessels were also amazingly flexible. Because they weren't firmly nailed together, so they actually bent with the waves rather than taking the full force of the waves and possibly breaking. Their ship's flexible design allowed the Vikings to sail the open sea despite rough waves. Navigation tools, sun, and magnetic compass. Using the mineral magnetite, or lodestone, which is abundant throughout Scandinavia, the Vikings invented one of the first magnetic compasses. The Chinese were the only other culture to have invented such a compass, possibly even earlier than the Vikings did. For 500 years, the Vikings alone had this instrument among Europeans, and they kept its existence a secret. Using their compasses, the Vikings were able to sail across the Atlantic Ocean despite the occasional presence of thick fog. Neither the Vikings nor most other medieval mariners were able to determine longitude well, if at all, but the Vikings were adept at reckoning latitude. They knew that the sun marked the east at sunrise and the west at sunset. They also understood that, at noon, the sun is due south, and during months when the sun does not set below the horizon, the position of the sun at midnight indicates due north. This knowledge allowed them to employ their magnetic compasses in navigation. The sun compass consisted of a peg, the gnomon, inserted through a hole in the center of a circular, wooden or soapstone plate known as the sun shadow board. The board was held horizontally so that the gnomon stood vertically. The shadow of the gnomon fell across the board. Its position was marked, and the process was repeated every hour from sunrise to sunset. Language influence. As the Vikings interacted with their English neighbors, first through farming and trading activities and later through intermarriage, the two languages, Old Norse and Old English, mixed as well, leaving a permanent impact on the land, culture, and language. This process is evident in place names such as Grimsby, Thornby, and Derby, because the suffix by was the suffix
the
as the Scandinavian word for homestead or village. Words like give,
i
window,
vindu,
and dream,
dröm.
among other common English words, also derived their modern meanings from Viking influence. The word dale, meaning valley, likely comes from the Old Norse dalur, which has become
Dal,
in modern Norwegian. There are also many other words of Norse origin used in dialects in the British Isles. A total of 700 words has its origin in Scandinavia. For example, many words starting with KN and where the K is silent are originally Scandinavian words like knife, pronounced in Icelandic and Old Norse like this.
Knave.
Fines, trial, and parliament. The first democratic parliament in the world was the Althing in Iceland. Here, people would settle disagreements and disputes and come to agreements. The Vikings had a sophisticated law system, with judges, a jury, and clear rules of what constituted a crime, and a jury of 12, 24, or 36, depending on the importance of the case. The settlements often ended with a fine for the person and his family involved in the dispute. The size of the fine was dependent on the crime and how closely you were related to the convicted person, but they could be substantial and ruin a person economically. And in this way, your whole family was responsible, not only you who had committed the crime. Check out my video Viking Law and Justice for more on that. Skis and ski poles. When not pillaging, looting, raping, and killing, as we all like to do, Vikings took time to enjoy skiing. Although the Russians and Chinese may have invented skis before the Vikings did, but this was invented separately, without them knowing about each other. The word ski is derived from the Old Norse skio. Skis and ski poles were used to both travel and hunt in the harsh, snow-covered winter landscapes of Scandinavia. The Vikings crafted skis from split tree trunks, shaped and smoothed to glide effortlessly over snow. A single long ski pole was used for propulsion and balance, allowing for efficient movement through the wintry terrain. The use of skis and ski poles offered the Vikings a significant advantage during winter warfare, enabling them to navigate and launch surprise attacks in areas that would have been otherwise inaccessible. This innovative mode of transportation not only facilitated military operations, but also allowed the Vikings to hunt and gather resources throughout the year. Even the Norse gods used skis and walked on snowshoes, according to illustrations of Skadi, the goddess of bow hunting, skiing, winter, and mountains, and Ol, the god of snowshoes, hunting, the bow, and the shield. The textile loom. The Viking textile loom was a significant innovation that revolutionized the production of clothing, sails, and other woven goods in Viking society. The warp-weighted loom, which used hanging weights to keep the warp threads taut, allowed for the efficient production of textiles in a variety of patterns and designs. This invention played a crucial role in the economic development of Viking communities, as textiles were valuable trade goods that could be exchanged for other resources. Viking textiles, including intricately woven tapestries and brightly colored garments, showcased the artistry and skill of Norse weavers. The Viking textile loom allowed for the creation of high-quality, durable goods that not only served practical purposes, but also symbolized the wealth and status of their owners. Not all were very happy about working with the textile loom. In one story, we hear a girl, not happy with her chores, saying,
"I'm not doing my spinning. You know how I always get it tangled. I hate it."
The Viking fish trap. The Viking fish trap, an innovative and sustainable method for catching fish, showcased the resourcefulness and ingenuity of the Norse people in acquiring food resources. Constructed from woven willow or hazel branches, these fish traps were designed to guide fish into a narrow opening, making it difficult for them to escape. The traps were strategically placed in rivers, streams, and coastal waters, allowing for the efficient capture of fish without the need for constant attention. The Vikings would dry or ferment the fish so it would last for a long time, something Norway is also making for consumption today, with Brazil importing Norwegian dry fish for their national dish, bacalhau, for over 100 million Norwegian crowns every year. And last, but not least, the Ulbert Sword. The Ulbert Sword was a technological marvel of its time. Made from high-quality steel, these swords were not only superior in terms of craftsmanship, but also in functionality. Viking smiths used a technique that produced blades of exceptional strength and sharpness. The Ulbert swords were so advanced that they were often mistaken for mythical or divine weapons, contributing to the Vikings' fearsome reputation on the battlefield. However, only very rich Vikings could afford a Ulbert sword. Most other Vikings that used swords had taken these from raids they had been on and were therefore not the same quality as the Ulbert sword. Remember to subscribe and set it for all notifications. And while you're at it, why not smash that like button too? And please check out my other videos. See if there are others you find interesting. And I hope to see you in the next one.